be really gross. And just wipe my nose 2 seconds. I've had a COVID test, by the way.
Croeso I Welsh Wednesdays. Welcome to Welsh Wednesdays with me, Kiri, Pritchard-McLean, and Katie Gill-Williams.
Croeso pawb. Anwyd wythnos yma felly. I'm so sorry os mae'n llais yn swnio afiach, ond dim much.
You've been a brave soldier, though, to do this episode with a cold.
Yeah. God, it's so horrible to be like, yeah, cold has taken me under. But you know what? It really freaking has. I think it's because I've not been exposed to anything. Yeah. Or I'm just sick.
You sent me a voice note the other day and you were like, yeah, we can do it. It was proper like stage, like nasal congestion. It was, you really went for it.
Well, I was still in character after ringing work. Be da ni'n neud wythnos yma, Kiri?
What have I done? Oh, wythnos yma, fy penod o iaith ar daith dod allan, came out.
Yeah.
Come out, that is. That's something else. I came out. Big week.
Felly wythnos yma, we're going to talk about the Senedd, because we are political bitches. I'm trying to look sensible in a collar and had a really mumsy haircut to go with it. When the Senedd was established, there was certain things that Wales would then be responsible for governing. I think education, culture, environment,
health,
yeah. And transport.
Transport, yeah.
You need to look at that one, I would say, because the rail system is shit in Wales. So I think we'll go back a bit to the 10th century with a guy called, it's the best name ever, Hywel Dda. Good Hywel. In the 10th century, he was responsible for the codification of Welsh law. So he kind of made it like official, I guess. And then 1280 is when Wales become under English rule. 1969, I think it started from like real grassroots. There was a small local council elected. I think it was the council of like Monmouthshire and maybe a part of Cardiff, but it was just like a load of councils getting together and kind of going, do you know what, this just isn't good enough. And that was the roots and the beginnings of taking back some laws for Wales. And it took till 1997 for them to have the referendum, and that's when they voted to take back controls of certain laws.
It's been like a baby step transition from devolution, and I remember living in Wales when that referendum happened. I remember everybody talking about it. I remember it feeling like it was a very big seismic event, and I believe it was shortly after Scotland had a referendum about devolution as well. I think the Welsh one was like 49.8% against, and it was like 50.2%. It was really tight anyway. It was a percent in it, and my parents, who voted for it not to happen, because my parents are that they would vote that way now. that's what their heart says. They were like, if Scotland hadn't have had it the week before or a month before, a year before, or whatever it was, they were like, it wouldn't have happened in Wales. The main difference was Scotland could set their own taxes, and with some money stuff, Wales could delay it, but it couldn't stop it. A great example is tuition fees. So England brought in tuition fees, Scotland went no, and Wales went, we're going to delay it by 2 years, and we're going to pay, or we're going to pay up to this, and then it became, we'll pay up to this amount.
Do you remember any tensions?
No, but I think that's because my family didn't really speak to other people. It's certainly within my family. So my father's family were all Welsh speakers and very pro. The North were very pro. Where I think it's largely went along, along the border weren't that into it, and then Cardiff was sort of 50-50, I think, anyway. So I think it's like a lot of things politically, in that the North, where the language it's an absolute heartland for the language, always very sort of like full hearts yes towards anything that is galvanises Wales's position as an independent, a self-governed nation. So I live on Ynys Môn, so I would vote for someone to be my AM. They then elect 4 Senedd members to oversee those areas. So there'll be 4 like North Wales ones, which sort of goes down to the top of Snowdonia. One of the brilliant things about Wales is it's such a small country. It can be really agile, and it can also be really responsive. So I think that we don't have, I'm not saying we don't have a class system here, but the difference between my assembly member or any member of the Senedd, even Mark Drayford, the First Minister, who's the equivalent of the Prime Minister, I feel like I'm 3 persistent emails and 6 texts away from being able to speak to him directly. And I would say that about anyone in Wales, whereas that is not the case with Boris Johnson. The whole elected Senedd, there's the First Minister and there's about 12 cabinet members. The rest of the Senedd is there to hold them to account, to go, are you doing the best thing for Wales, for the people of Wales? You know, with everything that's happened, I don't necessarily look at this government and think that every day they're asking themselves, is this the best thing for the people of Britain? Not us, the people of Britain. And I think that that's a really positive political movement in Wales.
The AMs, most of them start off as school governors and things like that. They know their people. And I think Sean Gwenllian around here is testament to that as well.
It's reminiscent of old-fashioned politics, but not so far back when it was just you were an MP because you owned land. The kind of politics where people would come up through the trade unions, which meant that they were on the shop floor working with people and could advocate for their needs. They're not parachuted in and be like, I'm going to get elected as an AM, and then I'm going to move to be an MP, and then I'm going to go for, you know, like a cabinet position, and then I'm going to be the Prime Minister. You don't really get careerist AMs. They're people who are passionate about their community, and I think that's really something to be lauded in terms of, you know, Wales and how it's choosing to conduct itself, really. I was talking about Rhyn ap Iorwerth, who is the AM for Ynys Môn, and he was a BBC journalist for years and years, and I was saying how impressive he was to me because he has like weekly surgeries on Facebook Live. So, and you know, everyone, it's a Wild West Facebook, it's full of absolute nutters. And he sits there and he goes through all the questions that he asks, and whatever maddo question they ask, I've been like, why is it not a netto anymore in Holyhead or whatever? He sits and answers it and gives people his time and seems to really care. And I said to someone, I said, why isn't he starting to be an MP? You know, like, why is he being an AM? Because I guess in my head I thought it was lesser. And they were like, well, because he's Plaid Cymru. And Plaid Cymru's believe that, listen, San Steffan, Westminster can do what it wants. It's the Senedd that makes the decisions for the Welsh people. So, you know, they're not being... It would be careerist to go, I'm going to be an MP because there's more money and, you know, like more prestige, I guess. But I want to be an AM because I want to represent my nation. And I just thought, wow, what a, like, you know, what an amazing thing, really.
I think it's been a Labour stronghold, hasn't it, within the Senedd since 1999. I think what's fascinating about that is that's the geography and the heritage of Wales, is that mining community, that unionism. That's like years and years. It's still a feeling, isn't it? And it tells you a lot about the voters, their age range. And I went to see Jeremy Corbyn speak at Pontiac, and he was speaking with a girl called Steph, who's from Maes G, and she was running as the Labour candidate. I mean, she spoke very nervously. It wasn't, you know, a stage she was used to, but she spoke, you know, honestly, and she was speaking like for like people of Maes G, and she understood Bangor way more than Jeremy Corbyn would have done. That was quite positive because they are pushing for quotas within the Senedd as well. Like, one of the quotas is to make sure that there's women on the ballot papers. And I know there's a lot of people who have like basically pricks who have like concerns about that. But I think until things are the status quo, you've got to push for it. You've got to fake it.
But it's interesting because in the Senedd as well, coalitions are quite common. That it's about a much more cohesive style of government of like, let's make sure that we're all listened to because someone has voted every person in this room because of your views, so we need to hear them all. And as a result, coalitions are common. And they've had rainbow coalitions as well, where it's been like Plaid, Labour, and like Lib Dem, I think, just everyone but the Tories. The press in the UK media, in particular towards Westminster, is very anti-coalition, because they, oh, it's a sign of weakness and it's a this and it'll be a disaster, as opposed to actually everyone has to moderate their views and come closer to the centre to get agreement, which is actually a positive thing, and you're getting a wider range of views. I mean, sure, it absolutely murdered the Lib Dems, but the Lib Dems' defence is always, imagine how bad it would have been if we weren't there.
But what I am impressed about mostly with the Senedd, I think it opened in 1999, the strides that it's made and what it's achieved in that short time, because things in politics take absolutely, like, they're just snail years, usually. They've just passed a bill to, make sure that Black history it's mandatory that it's taught in schools. So they're recognising, like, this model is just not working anymore. And the fact that they're not just saying it and it is happening is really, really positive.
Yeah.
But that does only come from AMs who sit there and say, I need to be closer to my communities to change it. Part of the strategy and thinking about where they want to be is they want to become a feminist government like the Swedish model. They've recognised the economic contribution of closing the gender pay gap and the billions that would bring into the economy, because women like to spend, as we all know. But no, they recognise, like, get women out to work, stop making it so restrictive, even with childcare motions that they're pushing through and things like that.
So since the Senedd has sort of existed, it's had really good rates in terms of representation. We're going to talk about gender in terms of binary now, because that's how they recognise and record it. So there's 60 Senedd members, and in 1999, the first election, 24 were women and 36 were men. In 2006, it went up, so there was 31 women and 29 men. It's one of the world leaders in terms of representation in the world.
They just seem to be ahead of the curve. I'm excited about, what they'll do. I think they were the first in the world to utilise technology to carry on having questions and, like parliamentary debate and stuff like that. I think they were the first to use Zoom to do that. And there was, I don't know if you saw the footage of, oh Jesus, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the AMs, and he hadn't unmuted, and he was just like, what the fuck is she talking about?
I think they're very impressive in other ways as well, in terms of it's a very technologically forward building, very eco-friendly. Yeah, I thought it was amazing, because I watched a YouTube video about how they made that was the design brief, was like open, transparent, being co-op. This isn't a building that symbolises control. It's about cooperation. And that's why when there's like sporting events and people are celebrating, they gather in front of it. When people are protesting, they gather in front of it as well. And like I think it's positive that it's symbolic of something that's for the people.
Yeah, it is great, but they just need to take the fucking rubbish home as well.
I think the Conservatives are looking to diminish the power of the Senedd, and the vast majority of people living in Wales want it to stay. So I think it's about 60% of people want the Senedd to stay. That number of people who want it drops if they are not Welsh speakers and if they're older. So largely you would kind of confer that it's English people who've retired here don't want a Welsh parliament, but younger people and Welsh speakers are really positive about it.
I think it's exciting. The Senedd is, it's going to do good things. This way I couldn't be a fucking politician. Cannot do a soundbite. It's going to do good things. I look like a Vox Pox from Sky News. Somebody eating a Greggs on the way past.
Should we have a little sgwrs? Rwan, ers symud I Cymru a dysgu mwy am y politics, dwi'n meddwl mae'n bwysig iawn am Cymru i cael y Senedd, achos dwi'n meddwl y gwlad bach, like Cymru, medra gwneud laws a policy cyflym i respond i y byd a, you know, current affairs. A dwi'n meddwl y Senedd, dwi'n meddwl y Senedd cael llawer o accountability, achos, you know, mae'n gwlad bach, ond mae ddiddorol achos adeilad, the building.
Adeilad. Adeiladu'r builder, so yeah, adeilad.
Adeiladau is building, so I think it's adeilad.
Yeah.
Mae adeilad yn ddiddorol iawn achos pan designer gwneud y plan paratoi, you know, gologfa o adeilad, I don't know what architect is, my architect was roedd o gofyn i meddwl amdan y dyfodol o politics. Felly, siambr prif, mae siambr prif yn y cylch, i annog pobl i siarad Gill yn Gyth, a'n adeilad dim amdan rheolaeth, amdan consensus, a mae'n bwysig, dwi'n meddwl, a llawer o, yn y Senedd, mae llawer o golaw? Yeah, light, achos mae'n agor i symbolise transparency. So the actual building is, you know, transparent to show we are transparent. And y Senedd, yn y Senedd, pobl ar y stryd medra ymweld y adeilad. So dim, you know, behind, cae drws, you know, agor. Yeah.
Diddorol iawn. So be dwi yn meddwl amdan y Senedd ydy rhywbeth gorhannol amdan y lle, a nes i dysgu am ti sut maen nhw'n defnyddio y lle i siarad mwy, dim ffrio fight, ddim yn gwybod. Hefyd, dwi'n meddwl mae Senedd yn cael swydd anodd i newid politics, achos dros y flynyddoedd, nationalist parties ddim yn cael best reputation. So mae'n anodd i newid hon, i dangos pobl, maen nhw'n inclusive. Achos dyma fy'n prif poeni amdan plaid ydy ffact mae'n Nationalist Party. And os dwi'n meddwl amdan Nationalist Party o Lloegr, dwi ddim yn teimlo the same, ti'n gwybod. So mae'n amdan marketing, obviously, y negeson. Maen nhw'n dangos y public. Ond dwi'n meddwl maen nhw'n wneud rhywbeth yn dda achos pobl yn newid.
Should we finish off? What are we doing next week? Do we know?
Ddim yn gwybod. Ddim yn gwybod. O, ydy Machynlleth wythnos nesa?
I think like there's an... oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
That one's all on you, Kiri bach.
Okay.
I'm just going to sit back and enjoy and just be like, not that I've like come to the table this week and gone, here we go. Questionable histories with me. I'm like fucking, you know, Braveheart is just so historically inaccurate.
Yeah, please don't come to this for historical accuracy. Like there's other places you can go. We are like, imagine if Wikipedia was never fact checked. That's us. Ta-da one.
Wythnos nesa, hwyl. Oh, I sound so gross.